Myuran, thanks for joining us as always. I want to play you a little clip from Rupert Lowe, where he's basically saying what I've heard from many people, that London is dying. Have a listen, Myuran.
I think London actually is quietly dying. I mean, when I was young and I was in London during the 80s, London was booming, and everybody wanted to be in London because it was free, it was entrepreneurial, it was the place everybody wanted to be.
And Myuran, I was there in the 80s, and that's exactly what it was all about. But Myuran, is London dying, and why?
Yeah, well, I think I agree with Rupert Lowe. London is dying. I mean, London is the capital city of Britain. It should be the crown jewel representative of Britain. But I think it's primarily dying, and sorry to say the old cliche, is mass immigration. I mean, London is 30% white British.
Ooh.
Now, people might say, why are you focusing on ethnicity? But the white British is a marker, is a reference point for culture. And when you have mass immigration, you at this level, and you have the white demographic declining, you effectively have a cultural apartheid that develops. You don't get a melting pot where everyone comes together as one cohesive society. You have one part of London dominated by one ethnic group, and another part dominated by another ethnic group. And so what happens is you have a low trust, divisive society. So I think that's primarily the reason why London is dying. Added to that, there's about 500,000 illegal immigrants in the black economy working around in some way, at least that number. And so you put that all together, combined with things like social housing. Half of social housing has been attributed, that's government housing, attributed to people who are where the lead has been born abroad. So effectively, what you have is that London has in some way been almost extradited away from Britain itself. And then there's high crime, 80,000 phones stolen last year, knife crime soaring as well. A pint of beer is around £8, which I think is about 16 Australian dollars. You piece this all together, and this is why London is dying. And you might say, why is Sadiq Khan always getting elected? Why is he still ruling over London? Well, I'll say the answer to that is it's because whenever he gets pushed in a corner about all these issues, he plays the diversity card, he plays the race card or the Islamophobia card, and that plays to the demographic of London. And that's something that Trump brought out earlier, that when a demographic changes, eventually you elect a leader who supports demographic change, and it's not really representative of what I would say Britain should be.
James.
Myuran, I really want to dive deeper into this question. And we're going to talk, about some of the really hideous cases and accusations against some people in migrant hostels and places like that have really made the headlines. But more broadly, there's a bigger issue here. And this is, the progressive left, not just in Britain, but in Europe and in America and in Australia. They have been told by their constituency for years, if not decades, please do something about migration. And yet, if they did that, they'd all be in power. They could do whatever progressive stuff. They'd have a huge mandate to do other progressive, lefty, stuff economically or whatever. Why can't the left get it through their skull that this is what the people actually want? What is so threatening to them about the people who actually live in their countries that they want to have somebody else come in?
Well, I think some of it is complacency. Some of it is about economics. I think Thatcher was a great prime minister, for example, but what Thatcher did was she made conservatism all about free market economics and not about culture. And so that got lost. Tony Blair then carried on the mantle, and he effectively said, do you know what? We want cheap labor. And we've become a drug addicted economy, addicted to cheap foreign labor. So that's the first thing that happens with the Treasury coming in. The second thing is, I think that the left don't want to admit some underlying truth, and you touched upon this earlier in your earlier discussion, which is that not all cultures are the same. And Donald Trump recently brought up this idea of targeting the Somali community. Now, you may disagree with some of the rhetoric that he used, but the main thrust of his point was, when you're dealing with a national situation with border control, you have to discriminate country by country based on cultural norms. If you have a country like Afghanistan or Sudan or Iraq, which normalizes child marriage, is it a good idea to bring in allow tens of thousands of young men to come into your country and freely roam around? Is that a logical thing to do? So in my opinion, culture has been relegated below economics, but I think culture should be above economics and even at the level of national security. I think that's where the left have gone horribly, horribly wrong.
Rita.
Myron, there was a very high-profile case that just concluded in the UK. Two Afghan nationals, asylum seekers, who were convicted for raping a teenage girl, and was the evidence in the trial and the commentary from one of the defence lawyers, which was really interesting, about those cultural differences. And he said that was part of the reason this crime occurred. And then we've got people who come here who are not used to women having equal rights. This sort of thing is almost inevitable. Tell me about that case. There was some footage that was released that was pretty harrowing, and there were fears that that footage could spark riots.
Yeah, I mean, these were two Afghan, apparently children, who actually targeted a lone girl who'd managed to get separated from her friends. She appealed for help. Unfortunately, she didn't get the help, tragically, and she was raped, as you said. And I would just add that this is a daily occurrence where we are having illegal migrants who have been housed in taxpayer-funded hotels, who are allowed to roam the streets from the countries I just mentioned: Afghanistan, Sudan, Eritrea, and so on. They're allowed to roam the streets. And what's happening is, on a daily occurrence, we're having some form of rape, murder, or sexual assault. And under any normal circumstance, you would be calling a national state emergency. But the Labour government, are largely silent on this whole issue, even though it's happening on a daily basis. So there is an element of absolute helplessness, a sense of despair, a sense of frustration and rage, because every crime committed by an illegal migrant has the fingerprints of Keir Starmer and the Labour government. You can't compare these crimes with ordinary crimes committed by British citizens. You know, and Afghans, for example, are 3 to 4 times more likely, if not, and by the Centre of Migration Control actually says it's 22 times more likely to commit sexual assault than the average Brit. So this is a massive disproportion, and we are allowing these people into a country who shouldn't be here. They should be detained, and they should be deported. The last thing they should be doing is allowed to be roamed free on the streets, and that is what has happened every single day. We're getting these incidents come forward.
Myron, I also wanted to ask you a little bit more of what Rupert Lowe spoke about with London and the problem with London, and I suspect it's the same in other major cities, but all these insane climate regulations and so on. So Rupert Lowe specifically pointed to London having like a 20k blanket speed limit. There's all those ULEZ kind of emissions zones where if you have this type of car, you can't drive. There's the regulation. I know last time I drove in London, it was just a horror show. It was just a nightmare. And this has led to small little rural shopping centres and that closing down. You're not getting the small businesses. Does he have a point with that? Is the climate cult, if you like, really starting to damage places like London?
I mean, Sadiq Khan has introduced these ultra emission zones, ultra low emission zones, where he's really put you have to pay extortionate amounts for if you're running a business and you're trying to get around London in a big van, your construction and so on. All of these things, it just makes it completely unviable. So you combine that with also, I would say, trains are often very late. We often have strikes. The unions are very powerful, especially under Labour these days. So all of these things combined means that London is somehow paralysed. And like I said, there is this sense. Rupert Lowe put it quite succinctly, that there is this sense that we are dying. We are losing faith in ourselves. We are losing faith in public services, the ability that everything is broken. Nothing seems to work. That is the mood. Combined with a fragmented, low trust society, this escalates and amplifies the whole situation. But definitely Sadiq Khan, whether it's diversity and it's also climate change, those are the two classic things that Labour keep banging on about, and Sadiq Khan is no different.
Mayuran Senthilnathan, always great to chat to you, and you stay up late to chat to us, which is great. Thank you so much. You've been a big part of the success of this year, Outsiders, and we look forward to seeing you next year, and have a very Merry Christmas there in London.